The first thing I want to say is how impressed I am with you being able to take action. There are a lot of different things that, I study successful people. I love being around successful people to see what they do, how they act. And the biggest key is taking action. And what was it? Was it Friday you
Yeah.
called me? And you're like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. I'm sure you've been thinking about it a lot longer, but right then and there, you're like, I'm going to do this. And this is amazing, a couple days later. And, you went live earlier, right after our call, and like, just, you're an action taker, and that's impressive. So I'm definitely happy to be here to support you. And I'm excited to see where this
Man, I
goes for you.
appreciate you so much. Thank you for saying that. For me, Melanie, really quick, like I have kind of been the type of person to, I guess, take my time when it comes to action. I sometimes like to overthink things, and it's like, as you mentioned before, um, you need to set things up a certain way or whatever it may be. And for me, I just need to jump in with 2 feet. So you being thankful for me and me just shooting that right back, because you're right. When I called you on Friday, thank you for being super patient. Thank you for dropping gems, because I've been following you for a short time. And I know on your Instagram, you've been doing your thing as well with the podcast. So I just want to say thank you for shedding some light and just making it like a smooth transition for me to start. You know what I'm saying? But one thing that I really want to talk to you about is your upbringing, your background. What made you want to dive into acting? Um, and I got a whole bunch of questions on my phone. So, but we'll start there. So, what made you want to start dive into acting? And yeah, what's your background?
All right. So, like, from the get go, when I was a kid, we're talking 7, 8, I wanted to be a rock and roll star. That was like my thing. I wanted to be, but I always picture myself like up on stage, jamming with guitar and singing. And though I couldn't sing, like I have no musical background, anything like that. But so the idea of performing was there. And I had my dreams crushed by a friend that was like, those friends that you have that they're kind of like, they'll come to you and hang out if their other friends aren't
Oh yeah.
available. So it's a friend, but not really like a really
Hmm.
good friend. She was over at my house, and I was writing lyrics. I was going to be the star. And she was looking at my lyrics, and she's like, this just doesn't work. And I just thought, oh, she's just one of those haters. And I was really into Springsteen. That's who I wanted to
Hmm.
be like. And so I took out, I think it was like Tunnel of Love, way before your time. Took out and, like, had the lyrics on the little
Hmm.
pamphlet, wrote that down, handed it to her, and I'm like, she's gonna think this sucks. And she read it, she stopped, and she like looked at it, she looked at me, she goes, you know what? This is pretty good. And so I knew she was being honest. And at like 7, 8, I'm like, okay, well, I can't be, this rock and roll star. And that was like my first, looking back in hindsight, I think, I really just enjoyed performing and being on stage. And like my friend and he would have a den and had like a fireplace and had like that little stage, and we'd get up there and like
Hmm.
perform. So that was kind of like my beginning into it. But like 9, 10, I think that summer, I did a play in elementary school, and I was hooked, absolutely hooked from that point on. I grew up in California, and we had like this park and recs pamphlet that would come out, especially in the lower economic area. That was the place to go, because like for $25, man, you could have all summer and you could do like a program. And so I lived out of that thing. So I'd get it, and I would look for all the acting classes. And so I absolutely loved it. I'd always do that. I got into it. I loved watching movies back in the day. We're talking like Casablanca, just the old school drama, romance, like all that, just
Hmm.
passion. I loved it and obsessed over stars. I wanted to be like, I just followed all sorts of actors. And back in the day, you could write to them and get their autographs sent to
Yeah.
you, right? So I just really, really enjoyed the art. Got in to do a lot of those classes. Got into, got taken advantage of in a couple of the, back in the day when they had, I mean, they still have those scams, those catcalls and stuff
Hmm.
like that. So I've been through a lot. Got some good training young, as well as the scams.
What do you mean? What do you mean by
And just
scams? So, like within this podcast, I kind of want to cover all like entry level, medium level, if you will, and then people who've also been in the game for a while. So, being entry level when you first started many years ago, what do you mean by scams?
So this is great because real quick, that's really what I want to do for actors is someone wanting to go
Hmm.
into it to get a mindset around different things and to have awareness around
Absolutely.
things. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anyone guiding me. My parents were amazing, supported me in the things that I could, but they had no
Hmm.
clue. I was in the Hollywood Reporter putting in for things, and so in one of those um, advertisements, it was like, come be a star. Like they made it sound like this big
Hmm.
audition. And I know they have it still to this day. I think the company just keeps changing names and stuff like that. Um, because I've heard mention in comments about, hey, I'm going to this place, and a huge red flag is if they're going to charge you for anything, just don't go. If they're saying it's an audition and they want to charge you, no. But so I responded to this open call. My mom, I remember she drove me down. It was downtown LA. I lived in Southern California. And they go up. I don't even remember what I did. I probably did two lines from some paper that they handed me. And then, like, the next day, I get home and I get this call like, you've been
Hmm.
selected. You have it. There's something about you. You have it. And they say all the right things. They make you feel really good. And then they get your parent on the phone and drop this huge dollar amount. So there's this kid that's just like, I'm going to be a star,
Right.
mom. And, the mom's, your parents trying to figure out how the heck am I going to come up with $600? And back in the day, that was a lot of
Yeah.
money. So I ended up, um, and what it ended up being, it's a scam, but there was services provided. And that's the way that they can get around that. Um, so I went, there were acting classes. They did makeup classes. They did a lot of different classes. We just go down to Beverly Hills they basically sold us a
Hmm.
class. I did learn some things from that. So I'm not, but it definitely wasn't the way that they put it out to
Hmm.
be. Um, and of course that, at the end they have some sort of showcase and they invite all the big names, and the only thing I really remember is I slated for somewhere in it they had you slate, and the person's like, you can't even slate right. And I was seriously like 10 or 11 at this point. And
It's like,
like to
dude,
this
chill out.
day, every single time I
Hmm.
slate, like I'm so happy for self tapes, but it takes me longer to do my
Yeah.
slate than it does to do the audition because I still have that programming in my mind of how they just berated the way I slated my name,
Hmm.
slated my name at like 10 years old. So, there's that's kind of one of the things to look out for. And I think the biggest thing I look from that experience is anyone getting into the business or wanting to go into it, get someone in the business. And it doesn't have to be a superstar. Get someone that's ahead of where you are, that's been around
Hmm.
enough, um, and that's proactive, someone that takes action and does the things and is, you have the fears and do it anyway, but you're gonna discover things along the
Absolutely.
way. And when you do, you want to pass it on, you want to make these relationships, and so connect with people that have been there. If you come across something that sounds weird, ask someone, and like trust your gut. That's the biggest
Hmm.
thing, is like know who you are, know where your boundaries are, know what you will and will not do, and whatever that is for you, that's
Hmm.
okay, but just know where your lines are, and don't let someone else who you perceive to be an authority um, make you change your mind
Right.
on that. So I think those are huge things to just know, and know it'll be okay. Even if you're one of those, like, you hear those Hollywood stories of, this male actor that was pretty big and well known went in, but there was even better known, director, and he said, do all these things and you'll be in the next, blockbuster, whatever, and they chose not to, and there's a
Hmm.
backlash. Let there be
Yeah.
backlash. You have to be true to
Hmm.
yourself. And so don't let your idea of whatever some success will be compromise what it is you want for you and yourself, your career. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
Could I
So,
touch base on a little bit of faith along our journey as well? We deal with a lot
mm,
of
mm,
rejection. Like, I
mhm.
love that you said that. Don't compromise who you are as a man or woman, for success or for fame. I've had a few conversations with people, and within the conversation, like, I'm not afraid to ask, like, are you wanting to do this to become famous? Are you wanting, like, what are you trying to do this for? And a lot of people will be honest with me. A lot of people will say, you know what, I think fame would be fun. So I want to answer your question and I want to say yes. And then on the other side, I have people telling me, man, I really want to build like a production team around me. I don't care how long it takes. I would love to, buy some land, maybe build a school, invite some people that I've worked with and collaborate. And I'm on that end of the spectrum, to be honest with you. At the end of the day, we can't really, if somebody likes you, they're going to like you. They like the way you work. They like just the way you are on set. You can't really help that. But I love that we did shed light on some red flags. I remember also to where back in the day when I first started, people want to go ahead and have you come audition and sign up for classes, and exactly what you said, they get the parent on the phone because you're under the age, and now it's an emotional battle because you have the parent on the phone, kid on the leg, and the agency is on the phone. So it's like, what the heck. Another
Yeah.
thing I wanted to shed light on is, what is your one of your favorite genres? Like, if you can act one genre in your next project, what would that genre look like?
Action
Okay.
adventure,
And why
all the
action
way.
adventure?
Like I just I love being. I'm a very kinesthetic person. I'm one of those where an acting instructor said, "Sit on your hands." Stop moving around so
Mm,
much. I definitely enjoy being in my body and moving around and being physical. So I don't know why it is that that hasn't always been the genre before that I've been drawn
mhm.
to. But right now, for acting, I want to go
Yeah.
have fun. I mean, I want to work around um, big professionals, whatever that looks like. I want to be around people that want to get the job done in the best manner that they can. And that excites me. And I want to enjoy not every moment of it, because you're not going to enjoy every moment of it, right? That's not how life is. But that's something that I feel called for. It doesn't make any sense
Mhm.
for me, but I'm leaning into it. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
I
Action
would love to
adventure.
see you in more action adventure, and I do want to talk about the tunnel a little bit, but I want to not jump in that right now. I'm gonna pull up a few notes on my phone because I do have a few questions for you.
Awesome.
So let me start off with, hmm, hmm, hmm.
You're building the
Good,
suspense for
good,
me.
good, good. It's a good one. Well, so I've been doing my research and I have over 30 questions. Now, I don't plan on asking you all 30, but I want to jumble like back and forth. Some are going to be acting related questions, some are going to be outside of the biz. Um, so, what do you believe is the most challenging aspect of being an actor or actress? I should say?
So I can only answer for myself. Getting out of my
Mhm,
head. That's the biggest obstacle for me. I think I've become addicted to overthinking, and I notice, in a lot of the classes I have that are the longer ones, the very more like they give you more time for
mhm,
stuff, where they take you in and they do all these different things first, physically, vocal warm ups, all of that. And it really just gets you out of your head. I had another instructor. I can't really go into his process or anything, but it'd be a very long class, and like the whole, like 75% of it thought had nothing to do with acting, but he was just getting us out of our world and just getting us into the play space. And I see how valuable that was in just knowing that, like, funny figuring out that that's what he was doing. So the biggest part is self-esteem, getting the right self-talk, and just kind of getting over myself, if that makes
mhm.
sense. Like, I think a lot of times we're so worried about, does it look good? Well, don't worry about that. Tap into the character, find the character, go in there and play. And that's where the gold is. That's where the connection is with the other characters. And that's what I love about that, is because that's a space where you can allow others to be vulnerable to and connect. And then that's where the magic
Absolutely. I
happens.
like that. Heck yeah. All right, let me next one. Hmm. Okay, if someone was going to make your life into a movie, who would you want to play you? And it can't be you, of course. Who would you want to play you?
Well, it would be backwards, because I Jodie Foster, because for so long, like, people, like, especially when I was younger, I looked a lot more
Hmm.
like her, and so I think that's funny. And through that, when I see things with her in it or hear her in interviews, I just have an amazing amount of respect for her, and so I think that'd be pretty cool. That's who jumped into my mind
That'd
when
be
you said
cool.
that.
That'd be awesome. So when you have a 5 minute break on set, if you are to get a break on set, I put 5 minutes just to be funny because it's literally 5 minutes or nothing sometimes. Um, what do you find
Hmm.
yourself doing within that break?
Headphones and
Okay.
music.
So what genre of movies are your favorite to watch? Okay.
Romance. Not well. Yeah, something with a an element of a romantic connection. Yeah, I wouldn't say like when I said that I'm kind of thinking like fantasy books. It's not like that end of it, but I like something with some drama into it, life
Mhm.
lessons, but with that love
Okay.
element. Definitely, I'm a romantic at heart, somewhere deep under the
I'll be honest with you.
coldness.
I enjoy
As a
I enjoy some
romantic.
romance too, like watching movies. My favorite is action and
Yeah,
adventure. I just feel like anything with like explosions and, of course, anything related to like the tunnel. I think that that would be super badass to watch and also to play. But next
yeah.
question: what makes a good scene partner in your opinion?
Someone that allows themselves to be
Hmm.
vulnerable. Um, that's the key thing to and trust. Like obviously, with vulnerability, it's because you're trusting the other person, but to just be able to say, okay, I'm going to let this go no matter where
Hmm.
it goes, even if this other person takes me to a place that feels very
Hmm.
uncomfortable. And a lot of times we have to go there, and then to just know, to have faith in that person, that even if they take me to this horrible
Hmm.
place, they're taking me because we're trying to get to this place
Hmm.
together. And in the end, like it's really kind of deep that way, but
No, dive into it as deep as you feel.
when when you have that connection with
Hmm.
someone, um man, that to me is like what the universe is
Hmm.
made of. Like I wish everyone could connect on that kind of level. And I've felt it, I've been able to feel it several times on set in acting classes. I've even
Hmm.
had it. And I've even talked to like a person. We had a moment in an acting class, and I'll still connect. Hey, remember that time? It's just this beautiful moment of connection. And there's a lot of times, maybe I'm not opening enough up myself to be able to have that
Hmm.
experience more. But that's kind of my goal, to be able to go there and just have that beautiful, real life, real feeling experience with
Hmm.
others.
Absolutely. Let me see. Okay, after booking a role, what is the first thing you do when approaching the character or story? So you just found out you got booked. What's your
Um,
first step?
mhm. I just kind of go and sit with it for a
Mhm.
while. There's actually a long time I just sit with it. Like, you know, I like to see the whole script, the whole, if it's a movie or whatever, to know and to get all of that, but to really not give it much of
Mhm.
anything yet, because in the past I've had a tendency to just, want to dive right in and make
Mhm.
assumptions. But normally I'll read the whole script and just kind of, either it's like a meditation process, and just kind of be with it. Um, so it approaches it more slowly, if that
Mhm.
makes sense, giving it time for other things to kind of
Yeah,
get in there.
absolutely.
So I know that doesn't really, may not answer much, but
Well, your
it's
method
it's
is your
more of just
method,
kind of,
Yeah, so it's
yeah.
like, what do you do after you get booked? You just mentioned you like to sit with the script a little bit. You like to take your time with it, let it marinate, and kind of look at it from like a general view before you
Mhm.
dive into it deeply. I think that's great. I kind of do the
Yeah.
same. I'll dive in slowly. I don't want to know who I'm playing. I like cool that I got booked, amazing, but I don't want to know who I'm playing because I want to read it very black and white, dry, and then we can dive in and get the details.
Mhm.
So that's awesome. So, who in the industry would you like to work with next? Now, I want to say this like on a local level, and then I want to say this open to anybody in the acting realm. So, who in the industry on a local level you want to work with? Because maybe we can make that happen. I don't know. Maybe a DM, an email, you never know. So, we could try something.
Well, that I do want to jump in and say I love like local, especially Arizona. Like I only moved down here a couple of years ago, and there's so many people I want to work with. And in
Mm,
my mind, I'm already like, well, I've worked with them, and I really haven't. It's through the amazing support and conversations I've had
mhm,
with them, and just to kind of get their vibe, and maybe I've been to something that they've worked on, so being around them, it felt like I've worked with them. um, Tons of people in Arizona I want to work with. I think on on my like up there, yeah, it Burke Floyd would be someone I'd absolutely love to work with. I got to work with Sean Berube already, so that was like a huge one
Hmm.
for me. But yeah, that's on a local level. Just so many great actors. I feel like it's a matter of time of finding the right project, and I think that's key for me is if the project's the right fit, like it's got to be there. So nothing's a
Hmm.
rush, and I'm excited looking forward to being able to work with so many great people that are out here that
Absolutely
so
makes sense. And you know how it works in Arizona on a local level. It's only a matter of time. And I know you know that. Like it's manifesting,
yeah.
but it happens a little bit quicker than just sitting there waiting. You know, like on a local level, like you'll have an opportunity to work with this person faster than you think. Of course, keep hustling, do your thing, network, show up and show out. But you had mentioned, so what makes a script like a perfect fit for you? Like what makes you say yes to a script or to a project?
Right. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not too
Mhm.
picky right now. In the, so I love
Mhm.
acting. Acting is a wonderful expression, and like I said, I love having those moments. Um, my long vision though is
Mhm.
producing, and so I get more excited thinking about who I get to work with, not like actors and DPs and directors and all of those things. The whole thing is exciting to me. But as far as accepting a script, like right now, I'm narrowing more down on action adventure, and that's why how we met for the
Mhm.
tunnel is because I was really focusing on that. And before I got the part, I started saying, okay, what are the things that are believable for me to
Mhm.
play? Let me, I kind of do it, but you put the feelers out, you talk to other people. What kind of roles do you see me in? And, you know, more action adventure, cop type roles, detective roles, or, the evil villain. You and I think we have that in common of, a certain look that we can
Mhm.
play. And so I started leaning into that. And I mean, I love that. It's a great place to really feel like you can play and explore, and it is not a stretch because we all have everything within
Mhm.
us, right? So it's not a stretch as far as personality, but it is different than like how my friends know
Mhm.
me, or see me. I like being a very positive and bright and uplifting kind of person. I love that, but then you love playing that other side
Mhm.
too. So um, I'm kind of drawn to those right now. um, so I think like saying yes or no to a script is just like, okay, where is this? Like, who's presenting it to me? Is it a favor?
Mhm.
Is it or is it something that I want to do to help advance my career? I'm not quite or stretch myself. Like honestly, the tunnel, there were some things in there that felt like a stretch for me.
Yo, you killed that every
Um,
step of the way.
so
You killed that every
well,
step
thank
of the way.
you.
Yes,
I appreciate
absolutely.
that. I appreciate that. Um, yeah, it's just kind of reminding myself of what my goals are with acting
Mhm.
specifically, and then looking at the script and saying, okay, is this in alignment with that? And that's kind of more like, through Actors Access, putting in for submissions. I find myself not submitting so much for things, especially when they're out of state, and when it's going to be a wash, like you're not going to be really making money because you're going to have to self-report and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So I'm a little bit more selective of what I even put in for. But I'm absolutely humbled when people come along and they say, "Hey, I want you to audition for this." That's like a wow moment there. I've had a couple of those, and that's beautiful. But then again, you have to go, okay, just because someone offered it, let me take a look and make sure. There's definite no's for
Mhm.
me. You know
Right.
what I mean? And I haven't had any of those. A lot of people I work with don't have those. But yeah, just again, kind of like I said at the beginning, know where your lines
Mhm.
are, and if they cross any of those, then it's a hard no. Or you can go back and have a conversation, be like, hey, the rest of the script is really great. What the character does here is not something in alignment with what I want
Mhm.
to film, and see if they're open. Was that a necessity for them, or was it just kind of something cool that they
Mhm.
threw in and they don't need it there? So right now it's just, is it something that I feel is in alignment with what the image I guess I'm trying to project, but at
Sure.
the same time, I'm not really worried about
Hmm.
image. But I am wanting to build more and more of like an action adventure type feel to put into actors access and book more of those right
Absolutely.
now.
So we talked about some of your yeses when, accepting or declining a script. Could I ask you, and you can definitely, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but what are some of your no's? I know you mentioned right now, like if it's something that a character has to do, you'd go and talk to the director, the script writer, and see if there's something we can change. Because if you feel like it's something cool, if we can just X that and replace it with something else. But what are some of your no's?
Well, right off the bat, like full nudity is a no for me
Same.
right now. It's not something I would be
Mm.
comfortable in. I don't know who would want that
Right.
anyway from me,
No.
but regardless, I mean, there's scripts of all
Mm.
sorts, right? So that's a no for
Mm.
me right now. I'm not saying there wouldn't be something in there, like I think it a full nudity in a sexual sense. There are other roles that I could see if it was like, there's human trafficking stuff, and if it came into a role where it's something where it's this person that's gone through this horrible experience, that might be a
Mm.
different thing. But really, it kind of comes down again to, is it necessary to really move the story along? Other than that, I think it would just be really um, the moral of the
Mm.
character. And I've played some characters that were not good people, but in my own mind, I was able to find that place where it added to the story, and in my mind, it makes sense for that person. But if the role is something where it doesn't make sense and they're just putting people to be bad and evil, and to promote
Mm.
that, like saying this is
Mm.
good, then I wouldn't be
Mm.
for that. You know, if it's saying this exists in the world, and to kind of even leave open questions about viewers watching it, what does that mean for them? That's a whole different
Mm.
story. I'm definitely open for, opening people's minds and having them ask those questions or starting conversations about it. But if someone's trying to really promote something horrible, and I'm just not for
Yeah.
that.
So you mentioned, let's talk about some character work if we can for a little bit. When you're doing your research, you got to live and walk and talk in this person's shoes, or do whatever you can and show up and play that person. Do Have you ever had any characters kind of like linger with you in a sense, like when you're done, project's wrapped? Do you take like a few days? Like, what's your?
Everything
Yeah, I was
lingers
gonna
with
say I
me,
don't even
but
know what type
everything
of
in life
question.
lingers
Okay.
with me. No, no, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, they definitely linger, and I definitely feel I'm very much in tune with intuition and frequency and vibes from other
Hmm.
people. So I think that's easy for me to take on. And I actually have um, a character of Melanie that I have written out. And so after I do my performance and I'm done and I'm wrapped, I'll go back. Or if there's like the tunnel we shot in a couple different, for me, I shot in two different
Hmm.
locations with a big time gap. I'll go back and go back to the character of Melanie, especially if I'm having difficulties with it, to remind myself of who I am, where I'm at, and kind of get me back to my character, because those things do
Hmm.
linger. And I think that is a kind of an important thing to look at, that if you take on something and if you're there and you go, depending on your process. I know people that can go in and out and it seems like it doesn't do anything, doesn't change them at all, but no, I take on a
Hmm.
lot. um, I even had one where I was in an acting class, and the next day I just felt horrible, and I went to my other acting instructor who was more long term, and I went to him, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, like everything's good in my life, but I feel like
Hmm.
crap, like depressed. And I'm like, I know it's not me. Like, you actually get the sense like it's not
Hmm.
you. And that's the weirdest feeling, because I've dealt with depression before, and known, okay, that's me and I'm dealing with this stuff, but this is like, it's not even mine. And so we kind of picked it apart and realized that other acting instructor didn't kind of, like, he had a process. He would take us into things, we would do it, and he would be able to bring us out. And so I needed, and that's where I started developing writing this character for myself, because I know I needed this process to come out of it. At least that's what I needed. So yeah, having a process of knowing who you are, and like in that character of Melanie is, the upgraded version of who I am. So, if you're going to build a character and live that person, be the upgraded version. And so that's kind of an extra added bonus onto that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. One word that you said, depression. Can I shed some light on that? Because it is a
Mhm.
very heavy topic for some people outside of business, but even in show business, I'm sure.
Definitely.
So
And
how
or
what's a few
creative.
exercises that you have to kind of help you get through that? Because not every day is going to be perfect, sunny, and the weather's beautiful. Some days you're gonna wake up and it just ain't it. So how do you? Or you might go through a season and you just been missing. For example, let's say it's just not a few days. Let's say 6 to 8 months you haven't booked something, maybe a year. You used to be popping in year one, now it's year two, and you're like, dang, what's going on? So what's a few things to help you get through that type of stuff?
Good question. I think it's very important. And I think the number one key for anyone is to look at
Mm,
self-awareness and give yourself that attention that you need, and get to know the things that you like and want in life. What that allowed me to do was to look at the things that work for me. So I have a
mm,
toolbox, and I do a lot of coaching, and I've done leadership trainings courses, and I always talk about the toolbox. And in that toolbox, know what it is that works for you. So in my toolbox, I have number one is
mm,
exercise. I love going to the gym or working out, cycling, exercise and movement. If I get my heart rate to a certain level, like I've 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 trained myself to get a runner's high. I used to hear people talk about runner's high all the time, and I'm like, I would like that. I would like to enjoy working
mm,
out. And so now I just focus so much on when I worked out, when it felt good a little bit, I would focus in on that good feeling and just until it expanded. And then now I have runner's high, but it's through focusing on that good feeling when I exercise. So working out, going for a walk in nature,
mm,
hiking, um, serving, like doing something for someone else, just really that helps me get outside of my head and focus on, man, there's other people out there either with bigger problems or just you can help them. And being able to be in that sense of gratitude. Rampages are another thing that are in my toolbox. So I have this list of things that I
mm.
go through, and because you do need a tool.
Sure.
Excuse me for just a
Good.
second. You do need a toolbox, because not everything works, all
Mm,
the time. A lot of times I can go to working out and that's great. And then sometimes I'll do it and I'll still have that feeling like, like it's good. I did this good thing for myself, but that's something deeper, or it's coming from somewhere else. And, when I was in Utah, I'd go across the street and shovel my neighbor's yard,
that's
and
amazing.
he was very appreciative. But honestly, it really was more for me, because it was just getting me outside. I would giggle in my head, like, for the longest time, he didn't know who was
Mm,
doing it. And that was like, that just helped transport me to another world. And so that definitely helped me more than anything. And it was during COVID and all that fun stuff too. So that was a great way to do it. So getting to know what works for you. Some people like going out shopping, and I'm not saying use something as a
mm,
replacement, or chasing the dopamine or anything
right.
like that. But I do know some people that really enjoy going out, whether it's window shopping or whatever, and they just can. It's because they can distract their mind from those other thoughts and focus more on a place of
Mm,
enjoyment. And I think enjoyment and blissfulness is more the feeling, as opposed to like
mm,
pleasure, if that makes sense. So you're looking for that kind of heart opening, expansive type
mm.
experience. And, yeah, just building that toolbox for yourself and knowing yourself well enough to know what those tools are,
Yeah, I
tools
think one
are.
of the beautiful things that you said working out, you said going for a hike, and you also mentioned serving others. I think the most powerful out of the list of those three, first of all, I think all of those are powerful. Get up, get moving, whatever it may be. I think the third one that you mentioned, the third point, serving others. You mentioned you would go and you would fix your neighbor's lawn or whatever it may be, and I find that to be very beautiful. Um, I feel like our gift on like our the reason why we're put on this earth is to find out what our gifts and our talents are, and to find a way how we can give that away over and over. Now, dare I say, give it away over and over for free. Like, you're the resource. If it's abundantly overflowing, then you don't necessarily have to really worry about that. And I'm not saying, because I know some people will be like, yo, like I'm not trying to do this for free, like I want to charge people. I will tell you, you do it enough for free, people will ask you how much later down the line. You know what I'm saying? I've done
Yeah,
that experiment myself. You know what I mean?
absolutely. And it may not, yeah, it will come from somewhere completely unexpected sometimes. And there's this balance. Like, I really believe, but I think that, so there's a balance. What I'm saying is there's a balance of, knowing your
Mm-hmm.
worth and getting the monetary value for your, whatever it is you're providing in
Mm-hmm.
service. Um, and then there's also just trusting and having that faith that if I give, because I'm put here to give, then I will get in
Mm-hmm.
return. And not that you're giving to get in return, but to know that if I'm following my path and I'm doing what it is I need to do, that I'm, meant to do in life, then I will be taken care
Mm-hmm.
of in life. I believe in both things, because I believe one person needs to know their worth. And I think when you're able to put a price on something, whether it's your daily rate or what you're charging for the artist that paint, what your paintings are, to be able to charge what you feel it's
Mm-hmm.
worth. I think that's for the artists themselves of realizing, oh wow, I just got paid $300 for this gig. Wow. And it boosts your
Mm-hmm.
self-esteem to where you can perform, like you just
Mm-hmm.
perform better. Like it's really hard to, once you build your self-confidence, and then your next thing you know, your daily rate's 1,000 a day, and you look back and you remember when you did everything for free. You know what I mean? It's to help you grow and to get your self-confidence. Now, it doesn't mean you have to always do that, or you can't do the free
Mm-hmm.
stuff, or but I'm also very much a strong believer of giving, 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 and just giving and knowing it in the great cosmic scheme of everything, it will come back
Mm-hmm.
to you. I also believe you'll know when to do those
Mm-hmm.
things. You know what I mean? Like with the interviews I started, um, that was just, it's a passion project. I love celebrating
Mm-hmm.
people. I love doing those kind of interviews and stuff like that. So that's, just a small example. It's like, that's just something I have to do. Doesn't matter what's attached to it or not attached to it, and all those different things. It's just something I love doing. Um, and I think there's, a different level. I know a lot of filmmakers that will do things for free, but in their, 9 to 5 job, they're doing they're doing filmmaking, they're videographers or whatever they're doing, and they know their value, they know their price, so they're kind of doing both things, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Absolutely. Purpose or potential? Which one? Yeah.
um, Ooh, that's, I feel right in the middle. I'm very, and here's the thing, so purpose is definitely screaming to me when you
Mm-hmm.
say that, because I think I know that to be the
Mm-hmm.
truth. I think potential is also there in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, because I don't think I've reached the level of self-belief in myself to know my
Mm-hmm.
potential. So um so I think I want to see that as well, but purpose definitely jumped out to me when you said
Perfect.
that.
Um, that was a difficult one for me as well, because we can look at what are we capable of doing, But at the end of the day, like while we're doing this whole acting thing, while we're dabbling in show business, like I would love for people to focus more on actual purpose. If we were to focus more on
Hmm.
purpose, maybe you would give more of a clarity on what to say yes to and what to say no to. When we focus more on potential,
Hmm.
you're more open to say yes to things. You know what I'm saying? Now, keep in mind, I did mention I wanted to keep this podcast kind of open to the people who are just kind of starting out, entry level. I will say I've only been in the game for like 2.5, maybe 3 years, right? And another thing I wanted to talk about was an agency versus not an agency. You know what I'm saying? What's your opinion on that?
um my opinion is definitely agency
Mm-hmm.
for me. Um and I just got signed with the agent. I've been with her maybe a year here in
Nice.
Arizona.
Congrats.
Now, I don't. Now, if you're
Hmm.
beginning, don't think an agent's going to solve everything. Don't, and that's when,
Hmm.
as a kid, I was like, oh man, when I have an agent, I'm going to be getting this, and that's just not
Hmm.
how it works. Um, not in my experience in talking with a lot of people. I think it's very important to know, what gets you booked. Developing your craft, getting all your package together, and all those important things. But what I love about being with an agent is number one, she does have access to more things than I'll just
Hmm.
see, even in Actors Access. So there's that, and then with a well-known name, people are going to come to her and say, hey, we need people. So I've had access to higher paying type um, of roles, mostly commercial work. With her, it's
Hmm.
commercial work. A lot of my other stuff that I do, that's, I find that stuff on my own. So both are important skill components. I think it's an important skill to
Hmm.
know and to have the confidence in yourself that you don't have to have
Hmm.
someone else. I do know other actors that have done like big Hollywood stuff that went unrepresented for a very long time and did
Hmm.
just fine. Um, so it's finding, where you are in your career and what kind of value do you think the agent's going to provide
Hmm.
for you, and does that make sense for you in the moment? So that's kind of where I am with that. So I love the amount of opportunities that they have
Hmm.
available to them, and then to develop a good relationship
Hmm.
with them, um, and to communicate with them. Like I just had this conversation with her about, hey, the action adventure is kind of more what I'm doing, and though that's not like she's more of a commercial agent
Hmm.
for me, now she knows, hey, this is something else. So if something comes across her desk that may not be you, or she hears something, at least I've had that conversation with her.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's definitely not a solution to everything. And it can even put up limitations for someone if you're, like in Arizona, I'm represented. And so if I want to do anything in Arizona, I talk with her
Hmm.
first. So that's something that's different for me. Whereas before I was represented or when I was in Utah, I like there's I don't have to stop and check with anyone, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
absolutely. So you had mentioned, and it's amazing. First of all, it's a blessing to first of all be with an agency. Not everybody gets the opportunity to be signed with an agency. I know through some agencies, they'll have you audition, they'll have you do a monologue, and then they'll have you do a commercial. Whatever they'll have you do, I just want to let you know, like it's not that easy. Just putting that out there, right? So it is a blessing for
No, I
sure.
had to do a lot.
Yeah.
I had to, and this was something where, like, honestly, I'm not going to go into
Mm-hmm.
details. But if you see my stuff that I've booked through an agent versus, there's a big difference. And so when I had to do the same process as well. When she presented something that she felt was an issue
Mm-hmm.
with me, it took me a while to stop and consider it. And then I said, well, you know what? I'm looking at why I'm getting an agent, what she's offering me, and if I wanted to pursue that. And everything she said made
Mm-hmm.
sense. And so, and she's got tons of experience. She's a beautiful, amazing human being. And so I said, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go down this road with her. And so, but yeah, it's again, knowing where your
Mm-hmm.
goals are, and you can have big goals and you can have the smaller goals too, and just make sure it's in alignment, and doing the things that you want to do.
Absolutely. You
That makes
mentioned
sense.
also, I want to say, getting opportunity by yourself, hustling and gaining that momentum on your own. So, what are some of the resources that you use? You mentioned Actors Access a few times, which is amazing. But what are some other resources that you use?
I think the number one thing is
Hmm.
networking. I mean, networking and just, I love intuition, trusting your intuition, and following that and going with it. Like you and I would not be having this conversation. I would have not have met you, had I have not started my
Hmm.
podcast. So doing that, I was able to meet some really great people in the industry, and then you network and you talk to other people. Oh, maybe this guest, and then I came across David Bianco, who's my acting instructor. He's in Chicago, so it's an online
Hmm.
thing. But I took his class. I followed him. He's an amazing actor, amazing, even more amazing human being. And so I took his acting class, and through that, he did a showcase at the end. And in that showcase was Tommy Jackson, the director of The
Mm,
Tunnel, and that's how we connected through that. So because of my podcast led to this, to where now, it's kind of like almost like a full circle moment, but really just tapping into and trusting that intuition, because the interviews again were just something that I love
mm,
doing, and really just following that, and then the networking. So networking is huge. And with that is like trusting, because you can network and meet a lot of
mm,
people, and who you only have so much time and energy to invest and to follow
mm,
people. And so what I always do is I just who are the ones that really speak to my soul. You and I connected, we had this conversation, it was just amazing. Like I love being able to just talk with
mm,
you, and hear your ideas and where you're going and stuff like that. And so that's one of those connections. So just following that and having faith in that, and following, like with David, I saw something great with him. He ended up being an amazing acting
mm.
instructor. And so, following those kind of breadcrumbs, it has been, and that's opened up a lot for me, as far as, instead of worrying, like, how am I going to get, how, if you're living in that like
Mm,
space of worry and I need this, I need that, which is a very common space to be, especially like if you're just
mm.
starting out. And I still get there. Like, I'm not saying, I'll jump on Actors Access sometimes and now I need something
Yeah.
tomorrow. And it's just that self recognition of like, wait, is this where I want to go? I don't want to live in that
Mm,
energy, and I don't want to just take whatever. Now, I don't mind if something comes across and it works out. I don't mind playing, you know, door person number two or something
mm.
like that. I'm not saying like I'm above anything. I'm just saying make sure if you have a lot of different opportunities that it's, you're picking the right one that
I
works.
bet you door number two would be better than Thug
So
one. Let me tell you. Just saying.
that sounds, Thug One
Right.
sounds fun.
Right.
But yeah, networking is huge. Actors Access, I go on there. There are other ones. Someone, people talk about Backstage. I haven't dove into
I think you would
Backstage
like
yet,
it.
so I don't
They
know what's
finally
there.
had an update backstage, and what's funny,
Okay.
Actors Access is a great one. Actors Access was something that I was kind of late on because I was just leveraging backstage and then also casting networks as well. But I was also going to ask you, being that
Mhm.
we're talking about all these resources, I think they're super awesome, and it's very important to shed light on those resources, and also adding social media to the game too. Like we talk about casting networks, we talk about backstage, we talk about Actors Access, but why don't we also talk about social media as well, just as equal to all three of those? I know I've gotten some of my projects, some of my booking through networking, of course, but through just being consistent off of social media, let that be joining Facebook groups, let that be posting on Facebook, or just being consistent on Instagram. So I was going to ask you, for you, what's
Yeah.
been the most valuable resource out of everything that you use? Would it be Actors Access?
Right now I'm big into Actors
Mm,
Access. I haven't booked a lot
mm,
with it, but I'm getting the auditions, I feel, are, it's like a different, so when I got back into
mm,
acting just a few years ago, I was up in Utah. Facebook was it for me. Like, that was awesome because I was already there. That's kind of where I
mm,
existed. And so I booked a feature film through an ad on one of the Facebook groups, and then started doing a lot of like student films. And so I got material and stuff to be able to build a
mm,
reel and make some great connections that way. So Facebook was a place I started when I got back into it. Then I got an agent up in Utah, and I got a couple of things through her that paid really well. That
mm.
was nice. That was really, and that's definitely the bonus of having an agent is, they're in it. There, it's a
Yeah.
business. You want to find an agent that cares about you, but they're there to make money. And so, you get on those projects, you're typically going to make more money than, especially if you're starting off and you think, I'm just new at this, I don't have much to
Mm,
offer. Then you're not going to get the value like an agent would. The agent's like, no, I'm getting a commission off you. You're going to make at least this much. Um, but so Facebook groups are great. Um, Again, social media on Instagram. I do my interviews primarily live on
mm,
Instagram. So that's brought in so many different opportunities for me, not just in acting, but behind the scenes of where I'm heading to and producing, and I'm learning that kind of thing. So I've made a lot of great connections through Instagram
Mhm.
as well.
That was very
Mm-hmm.
cool. You already answered this as well, talking about the tunnel. We can jump into the tunnel. I wanted to ask how you found out about it, how you got cast for it. But you had mentioned already, what you said you met, it was through a class.
Yeah, David Bianco. He actually has a class starting in April, I believe,
Mhm.
April 4th. I'm wanting to get in there, but I'm also in the middle of move, so um, it's online, which I was very skeptical of at the
Mhm.
beginning, because it's online and you actually do like scene work with a partner via
Mhm.
Zoom, and it was definitely
Mhm.
different. But the important part was the showing up and then doing it every day and having such a strong teacher to give you beautiful feedback and that expected you to show up and be a professional. And so, every day, even though we met once a week, every day I was
Mhm.
rehearsing. And it got me into the consistency, which I was not doing for
Right.
myself, which, that's a shame and kind of, sad to say, but I wasn't. But that's also why I got into the group, because I knew that was lacking. I knew I needed the
Mhm.
consistency and I needed guidance. I'm a horrible guess. Like when I watch myself, I just say it's horrible. So I can't really give myself honest feedback of, okay, that's horrible. What are you going to do to improve it? Where's one area you can improve upon? What can you do differently? I just get stuck in that. Oh, that was
Yeah. Well,
horrible.
don't be so hard on
So having a
yourself.
great
You know what I'm
coach,
saying? Like, how do you know when you give a good performance?
I know, but I know that's a huge weakness that I
Mm.
have. So having a coach, having an
Mhm.
instructor, having those people are so valuable for
Mhm.
me. I know some people can go out there and not do any of those things, but that's not
Mhm.
me. I need that feedback. Um, and so, yeah, David Bianco's amazing, and his wife Jen. They run the class. So just being there and showing up, and the amazing other students that showed up and were scene partners and did all that, and then that's Tommy came into the showcase. So he has a showcase at the
Mhm.
end of it, and he invites a lot of professionals from the industry. There were agents there, there were writers, there were and directors, DPs, stuff like
Mhm.
that. So that's how I had the action adventure look in one of the scenes that I did, and it caught Tommy's eye. Tommy was in the middle of, I think most of the tunnel had been
Mhm.
written, but the part of Anderson he was working on, and when he saw me, he was like, mm. So he reached out and he asked me to read for it, and I did, and
That project was so much fun.
that was the most
Yeah.
stressful. That was the most stressful audition I think I've ever had. It was wonderful, and I was happy that I got the part.
Yeah,
So
hell yeah. That project was so much fun to do. And one thing for Tommy, like just giving us the ability to just improvise. And then for you guys, like being the leads, being so like supportive and high energy and what's up, everybody, and
I,
welcoming.
just so you know, just I want to
Yeah.
clarify something there. Because of what you saw where
Hmm.
you were at, I might have looked
Hmm.
like a lead. I'm a supporting
Oh, okay.
actor. There's just wait till you see the
Yeah, I
movie.
can't wait.
The leads
Yeah.
in this, the leads are freaking phenomenal, and I learned so much from them. And being able to work directly with them on the other shoot was just I gained so much from this
Hmm.
film. Um, and yes, Tommy is phenomenal. And what the one thing that like really stood out to me, and I love this being
Hmm.
on set, is just the changes that happen. And in the moment, he was able to like huge problem would just come up, and he'd just be calm, like that same face. He'd be like, all right, so let's
Right.
do this. And you're like, isn't that going to affect you at all? Like, you're not even going to take a moment to be like,
All
oh,
right.
crap. No, he would just like, that's not working. Where can we go? And that was amazing. Like, just watching that. Yeah, I wish I had that ability, but I don't. I'm not a director. So I'm glad he's the director.
Cool. I want to end it on one final question. So let me scroll through my phone and let me see. I want it to be a good one, meat and potatoes. Because
Ooh,
I really wanted, I want people
get
to
there.
watch this podcast, specifically this episode, and I want them to kind of see. It was strategic to bring on a female first. I wanted to bring on a female first. You know what I'm saying? Because And this could be a whole nother topic, how females are seen in the industry. Although being taken advantage of doesn't necessarily shy away from the men as well. Like male and females both have to
Oh
watch
no,
out, and
absolutely
watch out
not.
for one another if we can. But that could be a whole nother topic. But I want to end it with, hmm, 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 hmm. Are acting classes important? If so, why? This will be a two-part question. If acting classes important? Yes or no, and then why? And then you mentioned you also did something on Zoom. Do you think working with a coach on Zoom is more beneficial, or showing up to an actual class where you can drive and physically show up to a class?
Okay, so acting classes
Mm,
for me definitely
mm,
beneficial. And the number one reason, again, for me is consistency. And again, kind of going back to how we started this
mm,
conversation, the hardest part for me in acting is getting out of my
mm,
head. And so if I'm not in a class, if I'm not working on my craft, and you don't have to be in a class, you can do the things yourself. And I've done that as well. And I did that. I put myself through this thing, but when you have someone that's like, you have to show up at this time, you have to have this, you have to be ready to go on this, meet with your scene partner, do these things. They're telling you what you need to
mm,
do. For me, I'm a kind of person that responds well to that structure. And so it's just the practice of consistently doing it. When you're in it, you realize, oh, I'm not so
mm,
horrible. It's just I need to learn this. I need to spend time with my character. I need to try different things out. I need to do all of the things that actors need to do. Whereas if I'm not in there, it's easy for me to just go, I don't have the
mm,
skill. I don't know what I'm doing, and get in that negative
mm,
headspace. So the doing of the
mm,
acting and a safe space is a class is so important for
mm,
me. And I notice the difference when I'm doing that and when I'm not. So that's, I'm a strong believer in it. I think find what it is for you that works for
mm,
you. Um, I need an instructor that I feel safe with. So that's the number one, someone that you feel comfortable with, and someone that's not just there for you to show up and then to collect your
yeah.
money. You know what I mean? Um, so that's important to me. I've taken a lot. I've taken some online. I've taken some in person. I enjoy in person
Mm,
more because again, it feels more of a connection. But doing the reps and that's just as great, you know. So what else I do like as far as online or in
mm,
person is we have access to so
mm,
much, you know, online. There's an instructor in New York that I love. You know, if I could afford it all the time, you know, I want to go out to New York and take his program, but you know, that's probably not really realistic being a mom and disappearing for a couple weeks out of
mm,
summertime with my kids, you know. So I can do it online, you know. So you have things, if there's certain people you want to work with and you can't be in the same city as them, it's a beautiful resource. Um, I do prefer being in person though. And even right now, like I'm up north of you, up in
mm,
Prescott, so it's a bit of a distance. If I find someone down there that I want to go to consistently, it's really hard. And I know, you know, you got to choose your
yeah.
hearts, but I do. I have my balance of, you know, being a mom and an actor. So there is a balance that I'm finding there for me. So I'm not quite sure if that really
Hundred,
did that answer
100%,
both of your
hundred
parts?
percent. Yeah, because my question originally was, what, like, in your opinion, do you think it's more beneficial for you? And it's in your opinion, of course. Like, I always want to ask, and you just give me your opinion. It's not, this is the golden standard, and if you're not doing this, you're not going to get it. The complete opposite. Like, again, wanting to celebrate the individuals that I bring on, and then for you to share your story. So the original question was like, what's in your
Yeah.
opinion, like, what's more beneficial for you, like acting on Zoom or acting in, like going to an actual class? I've worked on Zoom with the coach as well. Shout out to Maurice Ripke. He's in California. I think he's in LA still. And I was a little skeptical about it at first, but at the end of the day, like, you're performing for a screen at the end of the day anyways. So why not learn how to work with the lens and work with the camera? Sure, it could be off of Zoom or whatever third party app that you're using. But at the end of the day, like, take all of that away. You're performing for the lens, you know? So I find that to be
Yeah. And that's a great point. Like I work with also with Vincent Rutley. He's coached me on a few different things. Actually, he was my coach and reader for the
Hmm.
tunnel. So huge shout out to him. But that, yeah, that's for auditioning, and for that, I absolutely online's
Hmm.
perfect for it. So especially if like once you get it, well, I mean, if you can afford it, every single audition have a coach there, online or in person, and do that. Like invest in
Hmm.
yourself. If maybe the funds aren't there, the ones, save up some money and have it for those auditions that you want. Have that coach there for you. um it's just, it's just like paying for coaches or personal trainers or any of those things. It's something that's completely valuable, and you'll thank yourself, because I'm
Absolutely.
very happy for having coaches
Yeah, and
available.
more importantly, let's take advantage of what's right in front of us. We have the phone, we have the internet, we can YouTube our favorite people, we could watch it step by step and try it at home. So there's many ways to work around it. Um, it is definitely an investment. So not everybody will have the funds to invest with a coach every single time they have an audition. Like, what if you're auditioning every other week and
Mhm.
it's like, dang, I'm about to have like six, seven coaches. Now it's probably the same person. I'm sure if you build in that relationship with that person. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm all out of questions, Melanie. I just want to say thank you so freaking much for joining me, and spending this time with me. Was there anything else that you wanted to add? Anything that you're feeling that you just wanted to throw out there?
I just want to thank you so much. I love going on a deep dive. I love the way that you ask
Thank you.
questions and what you're bringing to the table, and I can't wait. I believe you might have had some interviews, or you have some more lined up. I'm very excited to look and see what you have to offer in acting, and I don't know if you're choosing to do the other routes
Hmm.
as well. I know physical health. I want to get like, surround yourself with people. I guess that's probably the one thing else that I want to offer is surround yourself with other actors. Get to know what they're doing. Just being around them, you're gonna hear, pick up on things
Hmm.
subconsciously, and that's what I'm looking forward. Especially if you get more into the health, aspects. I need that kind of, um, you know, the words escaping me, but I need to be able to be around more people that are living the healthier lifestyle. And that's why I was asking you offline about, pre-workout and stuff like that, because I know I've been slacking in that
Hmm.
department, and I just haven't been surrounding myself, with people that are really in that mindset.
Hmm.
So that's another area I'm definitely looking forward to following you. And I'm excited about what you
Well,
have
I
coming up. So
appreciate it.
thank
Of
you so
course.
much for having me on. I
Absolutely.
appreciate
I
it.
feel like I'm going to start it off with a bunch of acting stuff and I'll always circle back to that. But to answer your question, yes, I will venture off into other stuff, health and wellness being one. I definitely want to talk about God and faith and things like that, because I offer more than just being an actor. You know what I'm saying? So I want to dabble a little bit
Yeah.
more. And you're absolutely right. Like, okay, if I'm dabbling into acting, why not bring actors and actresses on? If I'm dabbling into the health and wellness, why not bring those people on? I'll bring on certified personal trainers because I know some. I could bring on general managers from different companies because I know some. So it is like all networking, and it'll give you the people like the plant-based whey protein versus a gold standard whey protein, and they'll break it down and pretty much let you know that supplements ain't gonna be the answer for you. It'll just give you the edge. You know what I'm saying? So if you're not already doing
Yeah.
what you should be doing, you're not really gonna find the results with the supplements. You know what I'm saying? So, but yes, Melanie, we'll definitely
Yep.
dive into that for sure. I just want to say thank you, and yeah, and I hope you have a great day.